Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Imagine a symphony that's, well, more than just music in a concert hall.
Right, something that becomes like a story, maybe even a signal, a sanctuary.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how can art actually become this vessel for resistance, for remembrance, maybe even for connecting people globally? That's kind of the big question we're diving into today.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're getting into this really remarkable multimedia project. It's called AAOAS.
Which translates to
Oh.
pulse.
The Conductor's Heart, a symphony of silence, breath, and resistance. It's by an artist known as TATANKA. And it's not just, a standard four-movement symphony.
Yep.
It's this really unique blend of human creativity and AI assistance. They actually use tools like ChatGPT, Meta.ai, Refusion, even Audacity on Linux. Pretty interesting mix.
Wow, okay. So given that incredible scope, our mission today in this deep dive is to explore pulse through three main lenses, three dimensions.
Sounds good.
First, we want to look at how artificial intelligence is woven into the creative process here. It sounds really fascinating.
Definitely.
Second, how the work taps into and sort of reawakens Persian cultural and musical heritage, deep roots there. And third, we'll explore the story itself, this compelling, almost mythic narrative of a fictional female conductor, 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡. Her journey is apparently the soul of the whole thing.
Yeah, she's central. And, as we unpack all of that, we're also going to touch on something, well, quite powerful, maybe even a bit controversial.
Oh.
It's a perspective from the creator about a really well-known film, something that heavily influenced the philosophy behind Pulse and connects to much bigger global issues, too. That's a big question we need to get into.
Intriguing. Okay, let's start with that first dimension then, the AI. When you say AI and Pulse, it sounds like it's not just, a machine churning out music.
Not at all. The sources really emphasize that it's a deep collaboration. Human sensitivity working with artificial intelligence.
So AI is a partner, not just a tool.
Exactly. It shows AI can be more than just like a cold algorithm. It can actually amplify things.
How does that work in practice, though?
Well, a key idea is that the AI isn't replacing human intuition. Think of it more like a mirror, maybe, or an amplifier for these really human themes: rhythm, silence, even mortality. So each movement uses AI for things like texture building, pattern synthesis, but it's guided by the human composer. It's about the AI finding connections maybe we wouldn't immediately see, or translating something abstract like a heartbeat into a very specific sound wave that feels right emotionally.
And what strikes me is that it's not flashy AI. A lot of AI art feels like it's shouting, look, I was made by AI.
Right, but here the sources say the AI elements are kind of hidden, single-mated into the final piece. They serve the meaning, the emotion. It's not about showing off the tech.
Like a conductor's gesture at the end, almost invisible but essential.
That's a great analogy. It suggests that even with these advanced tools, the real goal has to be meaning, not just spectacle.
So Pulse is using AI to actually draw us back to older things, like attention, silence.
Precisely. It positions AI not as this big disruptor, but maybe as a witness, even a listener itself, helping us tune back into that shared breath between the creator and the audience.
That idea of shared breath, it feels like a perfect bridge to the second dimension, the Persian heritage. This seems really core to Pulse.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just like sprinkling in some exotic sounds. The whole structure is built on it. It draws heavily from the Dastgah systems, like Mahur and Shur.
And those aren't just scales, are they? They're more like moods.
Exactly. There are entire universes of feeling, of spiritual philosophy embedded in the music. It's deep stuff.
And how does it connect with other traditions? You mentioned it wasn't just Persian.
Yeah, what's fascinating is how these Persian rhythms are put into conversation with, say, South Indian tala, those really complex rhythmic cycles, and also African cyclical pulses.
So not blending into mush, but a dialogue.
Right, a dialogue. For instance, the second movement, harmonic orbits, apparently uses a 78-time signature, but layers it with daff and frame drums. It creates this rhythmic spiral that feels both mathematical and kind of mystical. Rhythm becomes this shared language.
Diplomacy beyond words, almost.
You could say that. And it really affirms the power of local sound on a global stage. It's not just about the notes either. It's revising the whole ethos of Persian artistry that focus on breath, on repetition, the sacredness of the space between sounds.
Like in the third movement, Silent Stars. It sounds like the pauses are just as important as the nights.
Definitely. Very minimalist. The silence carries huge emotional weight.
And this ties into reclaiming voices too, right? Particularly female voices.
Yes, that's a vital point in the sources. There are whispering choirs, soft mezzo-soprano parts that echo lullabies, morning songs. It's seen as reclaiming not just musical forms, but the feminine voice itself, which, has often been sidelined in both traditional and even modernist Iranian music.
Giving that voice its proper place.
Exactly. Pulse puts it center stage.
And weaving through all this incredible sound is the story of 𝗧𝗧, our third dimension, the fictional conductor. Tell us about her.
Right, 𝗧𝗧. Her story is really poignant, born in silence in Iran's winter mountains. Her whole life becomes this metaphor for finding rhythm within constraints, a woman shaping sound from breath, not from sheer command.
So a different kind of conductor figure.
Totally different. Her journey takes her from shepherd lands near Ardabil all the way to Hafez's tomb in Shiraz, where she conducts this final movement, apparently with no applause afterward. It's all deeply symbolic.
And she directly challenges that typical maestro image, the authoritarian genius.
Absolutely. Her power is in breath. Her leadership is in listening. There are stories within the story like her refusing to perform at her own mother's funeral, retreating to the coast, finding creative rebirth in solitude. It all points to a music making that values stillness over spectacle.
In a world obsessed with being seen and heard, her story sounds like a counter-narrative.
It really is. Her gestures are minimal, but her impact is huge. The sources say she conducts not to control, but to accompany life's rhythm.
And the end of her story. The epilogue.
It's quite haunting. A school gets built, funded by a mysterious donation. It's not named after 𝗧𝗧, the conductor. It's named after her mother. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, the School of Listening.
Wow. School of Listening.
Yeah. So by choosing anonymity, 𝗧𝗧 affirms this different kind of legacy. Listening over performing, presence over fame. It's like she teaches us how to hear again.
Okay, so 𝗧𝗧's leadership, this deep listening, quiet strength that stands in such stark contrast to other portrayals of artistic authority we often see.
It really does.
And this brings us to that intense critique from the creator you mentioned earlier about a specific film.
Right. There's this point where the creator draws a direct line from the philosophy of pulse to their rejection of a very famous movie, saying basically, "Whiplash, whiplash, I hate you so much."
Whoa, okay. Strong words. Why such a visceral reaction to Whiplash?
Well, it's crucial to understand the contrast. In Whiplash, the conductor Fletcher is portrayed as this tyrant, right? Using fear, humiliation, even violence, supposedly to push a student to greatness.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And that completely clashes with the idea in Pulse of a conductor being attuned emotionally, spiritually to the composer, the musicians, the very mood of the piece.
So Fletcher is technically good, but emotionally destructive.
Exactly. The source argues he's not truly strong, just domineering. Whiplash, in this view, isn't about collective harmony. It's about the tortured, ego-driven struggle of one soloist.
Whereas Pulse emphasizes music as, what was the phrase, not soloists, but an order of many in harmony.
Precisely. In Whiplash, music becomes a battlefield for ego. In Pulse, it's a shared vibration, cohesion.
This even changes how you think about rhythm itself.
It does. For the Pulse creator, rhythm is organic. The pulse of the earth, the sea, the heart. It's universal, human. In Whiplash, rhythm feels militarized. It's used to control, to punish, to break someone down. That's completely antithetical to the Pulse philosophy.
And the creator brings their own background into this too, as a female musician and educator.
Yes, the source notes that. They might see the film as sort of symbolizing the toxic masculinity that can exist in classical music, this glorification of suffering and aggression over collaboration and actual beauty. It ends up praising the tormentor, not the harmony created.
But the critique goes even further, doesn't it? Connecting Whiplash to broader issues,
Yeah.
specifically Iran.
Yes, and this is where it gets really profound and politically charged, so we need to be clear we're relaying the source's perspective here, not endorsing it.
Understood.
The creator draws an analogy. In Whiplash, the student, Andrew, isn't uplifted by music, he's almost weaponized by it. Rhythm becomes punishment. The source then says, similarly, in Iran, young people, artists, dreamers, are under the baton of a regime that plays its people like instruments in a, quote, symphony of repression.
That's a powerful analogy.
It is. The source continues, saying that, like Andrew, the Iranian people face ultimatums. Play louder, be silent, march in time, or face being broken. The streets of Tehran, in this view, echo Fletcher's rehearsal room, ruled by command, not harmony, by militarized control, not art.
Both environments pretending to honor greatness, but actually demanding obedience through pain.
That's the argument being made, that both reward obedience, sacrifice, pain, under the guise of achieving something noble.
The source has a really stark line about this, doesn't it? About bleeding for art or for ideology.
Yes. It says, in Whiplash, Andrew bleeds on his drumsticks for an elite fantasy. In Iran, the blood spilled is justified for power, pride, ideology. The system in both cases suggests suffering is necessary for transcendence.
But the creator insists.
Insists both are lies. Whether you're a student or a citizen, a drummer or a dissident, nobody should have to be shattered to be seen or heard.
That the people in Iran, artists, women, youth, just want to breathe, to live without fear.
Exactly. But the hand on the baton, as the source puts it, isn't listening. It's only striking. What should be a symphony becomes a siege. Rhythm becomes violence. The conductor becomes a tyrant.
It's a very heavy comparison, drawing that parallel between the film's dynamic and a national reality.
Extremely heavy, but central to understanding the philosophical stakes of pulse, as envisioned by its creator.
Okay, so let's try to pull these threads together. What does this deep dive into Pulse ultimately tell us? What should you, our listener, take away?
Well, first, Pulse, the conductor's heart, really redefines how we can think about creativity with AI. Not as replacement, but as what the source calls a co-emergent process.
Right. And second, it's this powerful honoring of ancestral rhythms, particularly Persian traditions like Maher and Shur, showing their enduring relevance.
And third, through 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡, it offers this alternative myth of leadership, one based on silence, breath, and that deep, profound listening.
And underpinning all of this is that strong rejection of control of rhythm used as punishment, which brings us back to that critique of Whiplash.
Absolutely. It's a passionate statement that music, and maybe life itself, should be about collective harmony, vibration, cohesion, not about ego or breaking people down. Whiplash becomes a symbol of everything. Pulse stands against that destructive, tyrannical approach to art and leadership.
And broadening that out, the message seems to be whether you're talking about a concert hall or a country under pressure.
Yeah, that genuine leadership, true art, is about listening to the soul. It's about fostering expression, creating space for people to just breathe, to live without fear, not demanding obedience through pain.
So we want to leave you with a final thought from the source material, something provocative to mull over.
It's this. A conductor's true power lies not in commanding the silence before the sound, but in listening for the soul within it.
And connected to that, the really poignant realization, no human being should have to bleed to be heard.
Maybe think about that. How does that principle of deep listening, of nonviolence, apply in your own world, your own interactions?
Something to consider. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.